The story starts with a single mother named Tuko talking with someone on the phone. The person says that it must be hard for Tuko to raise her child on her own, and that she should have met a better person. Tuko tells them that it is fine, and that the only person she needs in her life is her daughter, and not a partner. The scene then shifts to focus on the daily life of the mother and daughter duo. Kodo, the daughter, has to go to the toilet on her way to school, which puts Tuko under pressure, as they will be late. After that, the two of them dash towards the school, but Tuko drops something. A strange but good-looking man calls out to them and tells them to pick up what they dropped. The man was laying down on a woman's lap on a bench. Tuko does so and leaves the scene quickly. Tuko appreciates the help he provided her with, but she can't help but think what kind of a man procrastinates like that in the morning. She understands that such people will be a bad influence on Kodo. However, Kodo says that she likes the guy. Her mom asks her why, to which Kodo explains that she looks a lot like one of the TV stars she likes. Following that, Kodo goes to school and Tuko to her workplace. After work, Tuko takes her daughter back to their apartment. As they enter, Tuko feels glad that the guy from earlier isn't around the place they live, as he is a bad influence. But to her surprise, she finds out that the man, Yuki, is her neighbor, as she sees him making out with a different girl now. She is stunned to see this. Yuki then recognizes the two from the morning and asks if they've moved in recently. Kodo is very excited to see the man again, as she introduces herself and starts conversing with the guy. She asks Yuki if the woman she saw earlier was his friend, to which Yuki says yes. She then asks what they were doing and stuff. Tuko intervenes and thanks Yuki for what he did earlier. She then asks if he is a student because if he is one, then he should stop messing around and go to classes. The two of them go inside, as Yuki is left wondering if he is scum because of skipping class and leading the lifestyle that he is leading. He understands that Tuko was correct in her assessment. Yuki then starts behaving like a kid as he calls the mother to be a toughie. However, he goes back to his way immediately as he starts talking to another girl on the phone. The next day, Tuko was at her office, doing her work as usual. It is then that an elderly co-worker of hers comes to see her. The co-worker starts talking about how Tuko is a good employee, who works hard. He then touches Tuko's shoulder, which makes her a bit uncomfortable. The guy then goes on about how they have not given Tuko a proper party since joining work. He goes on to offer Tuko to go to lunch with him. She goes to lunch with him, but the bad food combined with her periods leaves her in a bad state. As she questions her will to work on, she overhears some people talking about her. They say how Tuko is a single mother and that the last time they had a single mother, she took a lot of breaks. They express their disdain for single mothers, saying that they don't put in the effort full-time. This affects Tuko, as she goes on to put a lot of effort into work. The coworker from earlier goes over to her to ask why she's doing so much work, but she tells him that she is not going to use her child as an excuse to not work. Her intimidating look scares off the old guy, as he is left wondering if he said anything wrong. After a while, Tuko is done with her work and quickly gets out of there to get Kodo back from school. As she goes there, she sees that another kid was visited by both his parents. The kid seemed to be really happy to see his father. This raises questions in Tuko's head, but Kodo quickly hugs her and tells her that she only wants to be with her mother. This touches Tuko, who immediately hugs her back and vows to be with her forever. Later at home, Tuko tried to feed Kodo some vegetables, but Kodo didn't like it. It also doesn't help that the curry Tuko cooked was all burnt up and left a bitter taste in Kodo's mouth. Eventually, Tuko manages to put her daughter to sleep and gets back to do some extra work from home. She is exhausted as doing what she is doing is very hard. That being said, she knows that she must work hard because she is the only one supporting Kodo, raising her on her own. That is why she must push hard. She apologizes to her mother in her thoughts, as she decides to be done with men. She doesn't think that someone like her can fall in love. She can't depend on others, so she will just stay with her daughter and raise her. The next morning, Kodo tries to wake her mother up, asking for breakfast. Tuko quickly comes back to her senses, as she realizes that she had dozed off last night. She quickly gets up and starts doing everything on speedrun. She tells Kodo to wash her face brush her teeth and get ready, as she gave her bread to eat. Kodo asked what her mother would be eating, to which Tuko says she doesn't need any and tries to rush with Kodo. However, as she reaches the door, Tuko starts feeling bad. It is not too long before she passes out from exhaustion. This leaves Kodo all worried, as she tries her best to wake her unconscious mother up. Meanwhile, Yuki was making his way back home with another girl. He tells her to get inside, when suddenly, he hears Kodo's voice, as she was telling her mother to wake up. Yuki tells the girl to leave, as he quickly goes over to check up on his neighbors. Upon opening their door, Yuki sees that Tuko is down unconscious on the floor while Kodo is worried. He checks up on Tuko, who groggily says that she doesn't want to depend on any man. Yuki doesn't care about that, so he gets to work in shifting her to the bed. He also tells the office that Tuko had fainted and that she won't be going to work. Yuki praises Kodo for being brave and tells her to rest assured, while Kodo sees Ryuga, her favorite actor, in Yuki. Eventually, Tuko comes back to her senses, as she sees her house fully cleaned up. She sees Yuki cooking food for them. Yuki says that he already ignored Tuko's office about her condition. He also adds that she was really pushing herself with what she was doing. Yuki understands her feelings, as he also has a little sister, but she should still try and rely on others. Tuko breaks down, as she apologizes for being an incompetent parent. She goes on about how she doesn't want a partner, as she doesn't want to depend on them. And at work, she doesn't want to be a nuisance to others, as that messes with her self-confidence. Yuki, in turn, suggests that Tuko should make use of useless drunkard students like him. That way, she won't feel bad. He thinks that she should be using men instead of depending on them, because men are scum, as she had previously said. He then checks up on Tuko one last time, before taking his leave, telling her about all the food he made for them. After he leaves, the two of them start eating, and Kodo really enjoys the omuris that was cooked by Yuki. She finds it really delicious. Tuko also digs in, but as she eats, she can't help but cry out loud. The next day, Tuko and Kodo prepare some gift for Yuki, saying that he deserves it even though he is scum. They give the gift to Yuki, and he is happy to receive it. However, he doesn't say anything and quickly goes inside. Tuko is weirded out by this, but Kodo speaks up and tells Yuki that the omuris he cooked for her was fantastic and thanks him for helping her mother. Yuki looks back at her and smiles. Tuko pats Kodo to praise her for being a good kid. Just then, some sounds are heard from inside of Yuki's house. A fight had seemingly broken out inside, and someone was cussing at Yuki. Tuko shows her presence of mind by quickly getting a copy of the new Neen Rider movie for Kodo and telling her to watch it. Kodo is happy because usually they don't spend money on anything. Tuko reassures her and tells her to watch it while she goes to visit the neighborhood. Tuko then goes out to see what's up with Yuki's place. She is worried about it, as she had heard some extreme noises from the inside. She decides to call the police if she sees something wrong, because having criminals in the neighborhood will cause trouble for her daughter too. She sneakily goes inside and notices that there is a woman's shoe there, as expected. As she makes her way in further, she sees a bigger guy beating up Yuki, while his girlfriend tries to stop him. Yuki notices Tuko and calls out her name. The guy also sees her and starts going at Yuki even more, saying that he has been doing it with multiple girls. He is mad at him for messing with his girlfriend, saying that he should have known better. The girlfriend tries her best to stop the guy, saying that it was partly her fault for being careless, before suggesting that they leave after getting the $200,000. Tuko finds this suspicious and calls out the girl for being the same one who was with Yuki yesterday. She pointed out how she was being very romantic with him yesterday and said that she likes it as usual. Now all of a sudden, she is acting innocent and blaming it all on Yuki. The boyfriend is left perplexed by this, as she questions his girlfriend. Yuki also adds about how she was being normal until today, and that she suddenly became assertive. He also tells the girl that he expected her to be better than to blame it all on him. Just then, Tuko made a fake call to the police and this scared off the couple, who left. They brought all sorts of first aid material for Yuki as a sign of apology. As they are alone now, Tuko asks Yuki just what kind of shady business he is getting himself involved in. Yuki is glad that he had a witness and got saved. Tuko had also questioned why he was so docile when he was being attacked. Yuki let her know that he had gotten into big trouble before too, so he thought staying calm would help. But he appreciates Tuko's presence of mind when she pretends to call the police. He then goes on about how he lent some money to an acquaintance, but the person never returned the money to him. The situation is so bad for him that he wouldn't know how he would survive if he lost more money. Tuko says that he is just being used by others and asks if he doesn't hate being betrayed. However, Yuki says that he has no reason to do so because all those people see value in him, either for his money or his good looks. This answer ends up shocking Tuko, as she wonders if he is a nice guy or a nutcase. After that, Tuko asks him what he would be doing if he lost the money. Yuki says that he would be working as a male prostitute for the ladies or do something illegal. Tuko opposes this mindset, saying that he should just say it out if he is in trouble, instead of hiding it within himself. She says that he shouldn't be doing that, as it will cause her problem too. She explains how her daughter has taken a liking to Yuki, so he can't be working those bad jobs. Yuki hears all this and tells her that if she really thinks that way, then Tuko should save him. After all, he is just a scum guy like everyone else. He says that he wanted to live his life away in this manner, but now he is interested. He wonders if he can reform and become an actually good person. Yuki says that he wonders if a person like Tuko, who barges into random places to give a speech on morals, can help him. He holds Tuko's hands and asks her to save him from this mess, because she wouldn't want Kodo to get sad for him. Tuko is taken aback by the sudden move made by Yuki. She thinks he is crazy and quickly gets her hands away from Yuki. However, as she looks at Yuki, she gets a very different feeling from him. She knows that she should have just gone away then, but she couldn't. She tells Yuki that she can try saving him. For the first time in her life, Tuko felt that she had to stay by someone's side besides Kodo. Yuki is overjoyed by this and goes over to tightly hug Tuko. Tuko is once again flustered by this, as she tells him to know that he can't hug women so casually. However, deep down, she knew that she got caught up in this, despite there not being anything in it for her. The next day, Yuki comes to visit the mother and daughter with some homemade food. He had cooked the meat Tuko gave him. They start eating, and as usual, Kodo loves every bit of it. Tuko is also a bit impressed by his cooking skills, but doesn't explicitly express it. Following that, Tuko asks him what kind of saving he needs from her, and says that the deal is too one-sided. Yuki replies that he doesn't want it to be that way, so he shows her the connected wall they have. He states that they can knock there if they need anything, be it small help or big, and he will show up. Kodo is happy to know that Yuki will be showing up more often, as she wants to eat with him and spend time. Meanwhile, Tuko notices this and thinks that despite being scum, Yuko does seem to have some redeeming qualities. She tells him that she won't forgive him if he ends up making Kodo sad, to which he agrees. However, Yuki then brings up a list. He states that these are some of the help he would want in return for responding to their knocks. Tuko is irritated by this and says that she will never knock for his help. Tuko went to sleep thinking that he will never be calling Yuki for help because she already made her mind up on raising Kodo alone. However, the very next morning, Yuki was in their bedroom to help. Yuki slowly walked over to Tuko and kissed her on the forehead to wake her up like a fairy tale. Tuko wakes up and is pleasantly surprised by the pretty face in front of her. Kodo exclaims that Yuki indeed is a prince, and this brings Tuko out of her trance as she screams loudly. Tuko was scared as she kept calling Yuki a pervert on repeat. She questioned his intentions to be inside their bedroom. Yuki explains that he only did it because he was called in for help by Kodo. In turn, Kodo tells her mother how she was worried about her not waking up in the morning. She thought something unusual like the day before might have happened, so she called Yuki for help. Tuko, exasperated, told her daughter that it was only 5 in the morning. She also further goes on to ask Yuki how he got up so early in the morning. Yuki answers by saying that he usually drinks till the morning on Saturdays. This extracts a groan of disgust from Tuko. After Yuki leaves, Tuko tells Kodo that she must only ask for Yuki's help when she is in serious trouble, because it will end up bothering Yuki if she calls him for small things. This ends up saddening Koto, who cries and says that Yuki promised to come to her aid for any problem she has. Following that, they go along with their usual activity, and back home at night, a new dilemma is created. Tuko ends up burning the dinner she cooked once again. However, she tells Koto to have the carrots, as they are not burned and are good for her health. Koto notices the danger on the horizon and quickly goes to knock on the wall to ask for help. She informs Yuki of her being in serious trouble, as her mother is trying to feed her burnt food for dinner. Yuki quickly comes over and eats the food to realize that it was really burnt. Following that, he prepared food for everyone, and after having it, he left. Then the mother and daughter went to take a bath, where Tuko sternly tells Koto to not knock on the wall. She says that only Tuko will be using the knock on the wall from now on. After they are done taking the shower, Tuko still goes on with her lecture on the topic, saying that they should not depend on men. Just then, she notices a very scary insect crawling around their house. Tuko is scared by this, and she quickly goes over to knock on the wall. She begs for Yuki to come and help her. She apologizes for holding a higher ground with him, and states that this is the only thing she can't handle herself. Yuki, as promised, makes his way to their house and captures the insect in a plastic bag. Yuki is surprised that the insects make it inside their house too. He then tells Tuko that he will be going out and dropping the insect on the outside. Tuko feels gratitude towards Yuki for helping her in this situation and offers him to stay around for some tea if he has time on him. Being the guy that he is, Yuki hangs around and chomped on crackers as he watched television with Koto. Tuko is genuinely surprised, as Yuki asks for more. She understands that he is a bona fide freeloader and that it was her fault for telling him to stay over. Tuko tries to go and indirectly tell him that it is too late and that he should leave. However, Yuki notices that Koto has fallen asleep and informs Tuko in that instant. Tuko is surprised once again, as she thought that Koto is unable to sleep with anyone other than her. Following this, Yuki gets up and pats Tuko on the head, telling her to take it easy. He then tells her that he is going to be going somewhere as a friend called for him, and tells her to close the door. Some time passes by, when we get to see Koto knocking on Yuki's wall to get him to come over. Despite her best efforts, no response is heard from that side, and it makes Koto cry. She wonders why Yuki is not coming, and that if he had lied to her about helping her always. Tuko consoles her daughter, as she realizes that it has been 6 days since they've last seen or heard from Yuki. She remembers what Yuki had told her about going to meet a friend the other night, and wonders if he has gotten into trouble again. Anyway, she realizes that there's nothing to be done, so she takes out a hesitant Koto. They go to the flower-seeing picnic party held by Tuko's office. Upon arriving there, the elderly co-worker greets the daughter and mother. He assures Tuko that they've prepared snacks for her daughter and that everyone is excited for her. It turns out to be true, as all the adults there just swoon over the cute natural charm of Koto. They play with her and praise her cuteness, but Koto doesn't look very thrilled. Tuko realizes that her daughter is quite popular and that everyone seems to like her. As she settles down, she is reminded of what she had heard at the office. They were saying that they hate single mothers who don't fully commit to work because of their kid. This instantly turns her mood off, as she sits down and wonders which one of those people said this to her. Just then, Koto comes back to her mother, and in a worried tone, she tells her that she wants to go back home. Tuko is a bit taken aback by it, but she realizes the fright the kid is facing due to being around adults. The office people say that Koto must have worn herself out and wants to go back home. Tuko, taking everything into consideration, apologizes to the people and says that she has to leave for home. Everyone agrees, but they also drop a few stingers in between, saying that they weren't treated nicely for being kind towards the kid. Tuko sees Koto crying from all this, and she realizes that her daughter isn't exactly a social butterfly. She is quite shy. She knows that Koto understands a lot of things from vibes, and that's why she made the decision. Koto is quite frightened. She tells her mother to pick her up while crying, and Tuko does so. As she does so, Tuko feels the weight that her kid holds now. However, right at that moment, Yuki arrives out of nowhere. He calls out to Koto and asks if she wants to ride on his shoulders. Both mother and daughter are shocked by the sudden arrival of their neighbor. Yuki wastes no time in getting Kodo up to his shoulders, and contrary to Tuko, he feels like she is light. He then walks around with her, giving Kodo her first shoulder ride. Tuko then starts questioning Yuki, asking where he had been for the past 6 days. Yuki responds by saying that he had first gone to a flower visiting party. After that, he came back, but was met up with old friends from the club who kept having him over. Just then, one of Yuki's acquaintances randomly shows up to give Kodo a candied apple. As they go on, Yuki adds that he was living in different places every night for the past 6 days, so the time flew by. Tuko realizes that Yuki's social skills are on a whole different level compared to them. Another group of juniors from Yuki's club show up to offer him a drink. Yuki takes it and says the drink is to celebrate the cuteness of Princess Kodo. Tuko doesn't like it and tells Yuki to come back home, as he is scaring Tuko by doing this. She also adds that Kodo had already cried once before, because she isn't good with adults and threw a tantrum to go home. Yuki is shocked by this bit of information. He comes to realize that if Kodo doesn't like adults, then he is special to Kodo. He feels happy knowing this, as he tells Kodo that they both like each other. Kodo is also very happy knowing about this, as the two of them celebrate their bonding with each other. Yuki, Tuko, and Kodo then have a toast to this good moment. After that, they come back home. Tuko takes a shower to freshen up from a hectic day, but Yuki calls for her. She wonders why Yuki is calling her, as she already lent him money for transportation and gave him no pressure to return it soon. However, as she opens the door, she sees a messed up looking Yuki, saying that he wants Tuko to let him stay for the day. Tuko is shocked by this demand, as she doesn't understand why Yuki would have to stay at her place. She asks if Yuki had lost his house keys or something like that, because if that is the case, then he can just ask the landlord for a spare key. Yuki is embarrassed, but he explains how he has a problem. The problem being that he hasn't paid his house rent in a good while, so he can't ask him. Learning about this disgusts Tuko to the fullest. She lets him know that he is the purest form of trash. Yuki finds this all to be quite embarrassing but stands his ground. Tuko tauntingly asks Yuki why he wasn't going to one of his many girlfriends to spend the night out. Yuki, still embarrassed, informs her about how he hasn't managed to sleep much for the last few days, which is why he doesn't want to go to those girls, as that would mean staying up again, whereas he wants to sleep peacefully. This was the final straw for Tuko, as she shuts the door down on Yuki's face. She covers Kodo's ears, saying that such a vulgar man can be of no good for Kodo. However, Kodo poses a tough question to her mother. She states that her mother had always told her to help people in need. Yet now her mother insists on not helping Yuki, even though Yuki helps her all the time. This question puts everything into a deadlock for Tuko, who, to save face, must now let Yuki in. Yuki is delighted by this, and he takes full advantage of it by first taking a refreshing shower. After taking the shower, Yuki comes out wearing a shirt that reads Virgin and asks Tuko for a change of clothes. Tuko notices the writing on the t-shirt and berates Yuki's fashion sense. Yuki explains that it was given to him by one of his juniors and not his own. Tuko, however, is totally against him wearing it in front of Kodo, so she has to go look for some clothes for Yuki to wear. As she searches the closet, she comes to the conclusion that university boys are all trashy. She also realizes that she only lives with her daughter, so there is no way she has men's clothing. Just then, she finds a formal shirt and takes it back to Yuki. Yuki sees the shirt and asks if it belonged to Tuko's ex-husband, and goggles. Tuko tells him to get himself together, as there is nothing funny about this. She explains that at one point, her husband had to get a formal shirt for a business outing. It was then that she decided to go shopping for him. It was her first time shopping since giving birth, so she very much felt the after effects of childbirth. She ended up picking this shirt, but it ended up being the wrong size. Her husband said it was only one size too big, but he can't wear it because of his image at work. Tuko presents some regret though, saying back then, she couldn't focus on her husband. By now, Yuki had already put on the shirt and asked Tuko if it looked better on him than her ex. Tuko starts smiling and says that it indeed did look better on him. She expressed how she had no idea that the shirt was so good, and even Kodo thought that Yuki looked particularly nice in the shirt. Tuko then told Yuki to keep that shirt, as she was happy seeing him wear something that looked nice on him. Yuki hears that and moves onto the couch, where he wraps a blanket around him. He falls asleep quicker than anyone could have imagined, and this left the mother and daughter shocked. Kodo said that she wanted to play with Yuki and tried to look under the blanket to see if he was awake. But she ends up discovering that Yuki is quite a weirdo while sleeping, as he makes some very funny faces. The next morning, Tuko gets up before everyone and starts preparing things before she has to leave for work. As she was preparing, she couldn't help but let out a smile thinking of how both Yuki and her daughter Kodo were still sleeping. She found it quite enamoring, so she decides that she will be the one contacting the landlord to help out Yuki. However, as she brought out the flyer that had information about the apartment they were living in, she noticed a message. It said that for anyone who is having problems, they can contact the landlord, who lives in flat number 502. Tuko finds this to be quite suspicious, as she realizes that flat number 502 is the flat that neighbors them. She gets out and goes to see, as she wonders if the neighbor is actually their landlord. She can't understand the situation, as Yuki was the one living there, so she ends up knocking on the door. She asks the person who opened up the door if the house belonged to Yuki Kusanagi. The man, who was quite menacing, tells her that it was his house and not Yuki's. He asks her what problem she has, before understanding that she must also be one of the people who got scammed by Yuki Kusanagi. This ends up being quite a shock